Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. So, the Paladins game that we're playing in the Warriors of Wednesday is probably just a few weeks from ending up. The campaign has come a full course, and we're heading into the climax of the whole thing. And I'm going to be sorry to see it go, but with every ending, there's a new beginning, and one of my Wednesday players, Josh, has decided he's going to pick up and run the next game. He's got a fairly interesting campaign. He wants to run it in victory. And so I get to make a character in my system, which I really love doing. And to do this character, I wanted something a little different to fantasy campaign, with some odd twists and turns, basically perpetual dungeon crawl with some pretty fascinating dynamics involved in the game world. I wanted to make someone unlike characters I've made before. I always like to stretch a little bit. And to do that, I reached back into the history of things that happened when I ran a character for someone else running my system. Friend Mike from the Manhattan Beach Group was running a game back in the Hot Chicks days. Picked up the Hot Chicks core book and a couple of Call of Cthulhu supplements, mixed them together. One of the better games I played in my system, to be honest. And so I played a magic user, and I had a problem. The magic in Hot Chicks, that was back in the days when it was wild and woolly, and the cost of a spell was determined by what I thought it ought to cost while I was writing it. I have since modified that a great deal so that now there's a definitive cost per effect. But all the magic was big and grand and amazing stuff, and so I had a character who could do a bunch of stuff. And it wasn't enough. Oh, we could get big effects off. You could throw fireballs and whatnot. That was kind of awesome. Do some teleporting. That was amazing. But then he had to walk home one night after ending up at the result of a somewhat botched teleport. And it was wet. And it was raining. It was wintry. And he was still wearing the nice suit that he'd been wearing inside. And he was miserable. And I thought, shouldn't a magic user, shouldn't a wizard be able to do something about that? Yeah, a wizard ought to be able to do something about that. I had an excellent sense of the big magics that were involved, and the magic in Hot Chicks was big and grand and over the top, but it was missing something. It was missing little magics. Over the course of playing that character, I wrote some more spells for the system. And they were not big spells. They were little spells. In D&D terms, I had created a system with no cantrips. Cantrips were introduced in AD&D 2nd edition, and I'm a big fan of cantrips. Now they're a regular part of the system. Cantrips are little spells. They don't even take up a spell slot for a wizard. They're just things that you can do at will over and over because they're minor expenditures of your magical energy. In victory terms, they take one risk, whereas a big fireball or something grand could be anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 risk, depending on how much oomph you're putting into it. Cantrips are a risk, 1 point of risk. Minuscule. Your average wizard has between 90 and 100 risk to start with. So being able to just throw stuff like that. And one of the first ones I wrote was a little spell called Warm and Dry. You burn your risk, you roll your do magic skill, and for the next hour or so, you're comfortably warm. You're a good temperature. If it's hot out, not if you're on the surface of the sun, but if it's a really warm day, you're cooled down to a nice temperature. If you're out in a snowstorm, you're warmed up to a nice temperature. you're warm, and moisture isn't really affecting you. Your skin, even your clothes, they don't really get wet. You can drink water or go swimming and you still, get that, but rain or snow or things like that, you're gonna stay nice and dry. If you've been out in something like that, if you've been all you got yourself wet from you got splashed by someone on the side of the road or whatnot, you throw warm and dry, and immediately it's like you're swathed in a big fluffy towel that's just been taken out of the dryer. Yeah, a nice, comfortable, warm feeling. Having been raised in the Midwest, yeah, sometimes that would be a nice spell to have. You're out there in your shorts and t-shirt, but you're fine. You're warm and you're dry, and that's what matters. And over time, more spells like that. Cleaning spell. I'm clean. I'm just clean. I'm just, no, I might have gotten splashed, but now I'm warm and I'm dry. And oh yeah, I'm clean. All that mud's not there. I'm fine. You get caked with stuff that's not going to take care of it, or you might have to put a little more oomph into it. But you're one pointer risk, one roll, and I'm clean. You've been out late. You've been partying. You get home. You feel like the underside of a refrigerator. I'm clean. It's fine. Do you need a shower? I don't have time for a shower, but I'm good. Clean. My clothes are clean. I'm clean. Everything's lovely. That list of spells grew into a fairly impressive group of minor effects that, kind of across the board is just a whole bunch of different things you can do. They're not big things. They're not going to make you, they're not going to kill someone across the street or protect you from a falling building, but they can do things. One of the most elementary spells in Victory is called Ooh Sparkly. And what does it do? You burn your one pointer risk, you cast your spell, you make your roll, and you create little sparkles. Your sparkles to your cosmetic design. Little blue stars, little pink hearts, just sparkly bits of light that fade in the air and just go away. Is that completely useless? You pick that up. The first thing is like, oh, ooh, sparkly. Okay, I can make sparkles. Why? What's the thing? I found a use for it after I wrote it. I wrote it because it seemed like the kind of thing a wizard should do. Just poof, sparkles. But that one, it's cheap. It's inexpensive. You can buy that with starting budget without too much difficulty. It's not even a big chunk out of your starting budget, but you can't use it unless you know magic. So in gameplay, that just turned into the answer. If someone said, hey, do you know any magic? You can throw Ooh Sparkly, and yeah, boom. I must know magic because I can do that. And that turned into, so in the game worlds that I've written for Hot Chicks and now Destiny, it's a more modern thing, it's near modern, a little bit in the future, and magic is one of those things that the world knows about. How do you know if you know any magic? Did you have the talent? Hard to say. It's unpredictable. It doesn't even travel along family lines strictly. Sometimes people just are born with the talent, but how do you know? Well, you go someplace, a testing center or a school where they teach this stuff, and they teach you Ooh Sparkly. They here's some words, here's some gestures, here's how to set your mind to it. Think about this, okay? Ready? Now, put these into words, make the gesture. If they teach you every technique for doing the spell except the talent, which would be the other component, and you don't have the talent, well, you know this spell that you can't use. Okay, that is unfortunate, but you don't have the talent. But if you do have the talent, the only way that is going to actually make magic happen is if you are talented. So it's a test to determine if you're a magic user. It is a badge of being a magic user. Yes, I'm a magic user. And at that point in time, that's kind of your credential. That's say, do you know any magic? A little bit. Little spells take on a life of their own. They can develop a history and their usage and their purpose. So when I codified the first set back in Hot Chicks in a book called Little Magics, and in that book there is a narrative alongside the rule sets about an archmage in the modern day named Constantino Devonshire, a regular NPC in the games that Vic and I play tested with. Vic's creation, loved the character a lot, but he was the author of a in-world pamphlet called On Little Magics, in which he talked about the tactical use of cantrips. And he wrote this book as a result of a bet that he took once that he could stop an army from invading his homeland by using nothing but cantrips. I really enjoyed writing that book. I enjoyed that concept, and I enjoyed the little bits and pieces of lore that accompanied it. The things that he was able to do, a little piece here and there in the right place at the right time to maximize their effect, to compound those effects until he made certain passes completely impassable, until he was able to drop an avalanche on top of an invading force. Just from little magics. So Josh suggests this game, and we're coming up with the characters we want to do, and I'm like, I haven't played with those enough. I haven't played with those enough recently. So I roll my stats for my character, and some of them are pretty good, some of them are bad. Good bracket of varieties. I got some extremes, and I got a lot of mid-levels. This suggests a character to me. This suggests what this character is like. So I created a fantasy version of a young Constantino Devonshire, a gentleman by the name of Cagliostro Devonshire. In Josh's world, there is a ruling class and an emperor, and the imperial family is mostly vampiric. It's one of those worlds that going to have some very heavy shades of gray. Where, yeah, you might be working for the bad guys, you might become the bad guys, you might be the good guys. It's hard to tell. Good, bad, those are concepts. There's a problem. Are you going to solve it? And unlike D&D, where your alignment is a line that you fill in on the top of your character sheet, there really isn't a out-and-out morality system in Victory. Your morality is determined by your actions. Yes, there are problems. How do you choose to solve them? Do you choose to solve them in the most expedient way, regardless of how much harm is done? Or do you choose to solve them mitigating as much harm as you can, no matter how difficult it becomes? Somewhere in the middle there, spectrum. So we're going to be exploring these characters of morality as we encounter the situations. Love that. Cagliostro, I wanted him to be something, in the Paladins game. Our friend Al is playing a noble, an Eric Cochran noble, and oh my god, he's amazing. From having to go through his entire list of names and titles when he addresses someone, to the decadent trappings he covers himself in, to the noble family drama that's constantly surrounding him, and his inability to if it took Al's character a few sessions to realize, oh wait, peasants have souls, came to the realization and ran with it, and is as big a defender of the poor as anyone, but he had some learning to do. I kind of love that decadent noble feeling. So Cagliostro, he's not a vampire, but the sunlight does burn him something fierce. He's got some of that noble's family blood in him. He's the scion of the family, but he's dishonored. He can't go home. Why can't he go home? he wanted to study magic, and studying is an awful lot like work, and his family doesn't believe in doing work. They're rich, they're powerful. Why would they ever need to actually do things like labor or effort? He shamed his family by going to a school of wizardry and studying. Cagliostro does not believe in doing anything the easy way, so he went to the colleges of magic to master some kind of magic, to become the definitive authority on some kind of magic. And there were already plenty of definitive authorities around, so Cagliostro decided he was going to go into little magics. He's a master of cantrips. He knows every cantrip in the book. The book being the Master Guide to Special Abilities, which has a compilation of all the spells, all the superpowers and all the psionics, everything in Victory. But it's got the compilation of everything that I've written for it since we published. It's a living document that I update every so often. It's been a little while, but I should probably put some more effort into that. And he knows them all. There's quite a few. They take one risk to cast. They're pretty easy. They're light, and because he still gets a stipend of cash from his family, so he stays away, like that arrangement often works out in noble families. He has a small magic item. It's called a Ring of Cantrips. It constantly provides him one risk that he can use to cast spells. So he's always able to throw a cantrip because he's always got that one risk that he needs. They're not big effects, but he knows all of them. He can create an area a couple of yards across that is really slippery. He can create a magical system of lubrication, which gives great bonuses to you if lubrication would be a help at something, and penalties if lubrication would be a hindrance. He can make a stairway slippery. He can also lubricate an engine if it is out of oil. Handy stuff. He doesn't need tools. He can throw a spell called Tools of Convenience, and his hands will suffice for the duration of the spell. For one action, it's like, I need to pull this nail out. Well, let me throw Tools of Convenience, and then we'll just extract the nail. Easy enough. Or fix a bicycle, or put a board on a house. He can throw Tools of Convenience, and he needs no tools for acts like this. Little minor defense, nothing great, but it can save his life against a minor inconvenience. Sodric Slider, one of my favorite spells. It lights things. It does 1 point of damage that is fire damage and lights things on fire. You're not going to be able to kill someone with it unless you use some creativity. I have killed people with Sodric Slider in the past, but you've got a pipe lit. Now, I can't seem to get this fire lit. We're going to freeze to death tonight. Oh, nope, it's lit. Handy, super great stuff to have. It's most of what he has. He's got a couple of larger spells because I had to account for the fact that he's got no strength. He is as weak as a player character can be in the game. The stats generally run from 4 being as limited as you can be to 10 being superhumanly capable in that statistic. He's got a 4. He's got a strength of 4. He can barely lift himself. I had to buy the clothes on his back piecemeal so they did not exceed his carrying weight. So I needed to give him a couple of spells that are slightly more expensive to compensate. He can't jump. He has no athletic ability whatsoever, but he can levitate. He's fine. He cannot carry a bunch of stuff. If you put a backpack on him, he would collapse under its weight and sit there. So he's got a small pocket dimension that he can use for carrying his gear. It's just handier that way. Cagliostro is going to be a challenge to play because the conceit of the game is that we're troubleshooters. We're problem solvers. Mysterious portals open to we don't know what. We need to go in and make sure it's not going to threaten the land, and then it's going to threaten the land. We need to make sure the threat goes away. And that's the classic setup for your fighters and your rogues, your people who have knife throwing abilities or can toe-to-toe things with swords. Yeah, that's not how Cagliostro works. He's a support character. He may be the first pure support character I have ever played. Healing is really expensive. Healing is very expensive in Victory, so he doesn't have any of that because, well, it was expensive. And I had other places to spend the money. And he might eventually pick up some healing, but he's much better at making sure that that never happens. I've had to sit down and go through in my head how he would handle some situations I commonly encounter in games. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be absolutely tricky because he knows magic really well. His knowledge skills about magic at the absolute top. There are very few people who know anything more than him. He has become a master of academic magic. And if you can do it in a cantrip, he can do it. So now I need to buckle down and get to the tactical part of his skills. How he uses his little magics in particular. What's his style? It's like a martial art, but it's like a martial art where you use the minimum possible effort. A soft style, like Aikido, where you're not using your own strength, you're using the strength of your opponent against them. Actually, looking across the spell list as I am, there are some real possibilities there. He might be able to swing some of that. That's how I want to approach a different kind of magic user. I like physical characters. I like characters who've got some running and some jumping and some acrobatics and some flips and stuff, or some martial arts. I like that. I'm a big fan of martial arts from all the way back. If a couple of videos back didn't tell you that, I love me a runny, jumpy, punchy person. That's or I'm a big gun guy when it comes to your cyberpunk games. I've come up with characters that had different loadouts of guns. They had different outfits that they could trade into their closet based on what guns they're going to be firing because they need different support and pockets and straps and whatnot. I love me a frontline combat fighter. I like me a sniper. I like someone who can do a tremendous amount of damage from far away. And Cagliostro is not like any of these characters. He is just a touch of the right magic here and there to make sure everything keeps operating. To make the party starts to freeze. Well, let me wander around people for a moment, and now everybody's warm and dry. I can't even see what that is. It's all covered with mud. Well, now it's clean. Are you a magic user? Of course, I'm a magic user. And he gets to do this with an attitude, this decadent, noble attitude where he understands that you can't go through life without any drive or goals or a stipend from your family that just fills your bank account every month with everything that you need to survive and maybe buy a house in case you don't have enough houses, because who doesn't need 3 houses or 5, depending on what season it is. I like that disconnect from society. I like him being an outsider, even though he's not really an outsider. He's a part of it. He just hasn't realized that fully yet. Like Matic had to learn things in his experiences. Cagliostro's got a learning curve ahead of him. He's going to learn bigger magics over time. And literally, there's nothing else in the book for him to pick up. He's going to have to learn more expensive spells. He's probably going to pick up some healing really darn fast because support. Healing is important. Maybe some spells for removing curses from folks. Also expensive, but super necessary. You need to learn these things. I like varying concepts out. I couldn't make this character in D&D. I couldn't make a character that knows nothing but cantrips and that could get by on nothing but cantrips. Mind you, when I do play a magic user in D&D, I often will pick a character that's got 3 or 4 cantrips, the minimum to start out, and see how far I can push them. Pick up something with a lot of variable uses like prestidigitation, a little mage hand to get that telekinesis in there. It's a different philosophy over here in Victory, and one that should be fairly interesting to try. There's probably going to be Constantino Devonshire or Cagliostro Devonshire stories as we go on with this. One of the characters that I'm probably going to be referring to back to a lot because there's going to be some stuff happening. Well, thank you for following me along on this particular ramble. Yeah, I need to get back to publishing some more spells, getting these books out, get the living documents refreshed and moving forward. Writing's hard these days, but gotta get done. I'm Scott Quorum. This is what has mattered to me. I will see you next time with the next Matters of DeCorum, and now over to Uncle Drac for the outro. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy this video, give it a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If there's any other topics you would like to hear Scott talk about, questions you'd like him to answer, subjects you'd like him to cover, please leave a comment down below. He will love getting your comment and you will love leaving him one. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, why not? This channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you do, you might also want to hit the little notification bell so you're alerted when these videos become available. If you would like to support this channel in a more substantial manner, we invite you to hit us up at the Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottQuorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows us to create better content more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.